Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. Today I would like to run through the most recent comms dive post from Cloud Imperium on Spectrum. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you all so much for the support. Cannot do this without you guys, it is very much appreciated. So every so often, we have a comms dive post from Cloud Imperium in which they round up a group of community questions and provide more information directly from the development teams who are working on them and can answer the question. Now, these are often great little insights of additional info or updates on how development is going in a particular area, and this time round is no different, with information provided about the VoIP system, operational costs of vehicles, personalized hangars, and much more. And where possible, I will also add a little bit more context and information just to help further understand the plan. Now, the first question is, will the VoIP or voice over IP system support environmental audio effects and vertical separation to improve realism? Now, they say that the VoIP system will integrate with the audio propagation system, which is how sounds travel through environments, to ensure that environmental factors are accurately reflected to improve realism, including if a person is on the other side of a door, for example. Now, it is important to note that one thing Chris Roberts said in regards to VoIP is how he wants Star Citizen to have a VoIP system that is as good as it can be as a way to encourage others to not use third-party apps like Discord. Now, of course, they cannot stop anyone from using an alternate voice option like Discord or TeamSpeak, and players will absolutely use them regardless of how good Star Citizen's VoIP is, but what he wants is to provide the best experience ever with VoIP so that players who don't use it will feel like they're missing out. Now, when VoIP is working, it sounds great, especially in places like caves where you can hear a proper echo, but as we know, it is currently not supported for the amount of players that are available on each server. That it's only supported up to 50 players, now we can have 600, so once the Montreal Star Citizen team get the back end of it working up to support that many players and more, then the audio team can get in and start creating much more versatility and quality, making the VoIP system the best it can be. Now, the next question is, what are the plans for the operational costs of vehicles? So they say that the costs are meant to drive meaningful logistical gameplay, like mining, crafting, trading, and the transportation of goods. This all ties into the economy through refueling, repairing, and rearming, and prices will continue to evolve as they bring more systems online and update the older ones, with the goal being to make logistics a key part of this whole experience. For larger multi-crew and capital ships, these are intended to be flown by groups, and their upkeep will reflect that. So basically, don't expect to be making enough to keep something like an Idris operational if you are using it on your own. And of course, we are talking on average here. Repair costs, they say, will scale with the size of the ship and the type of ship, while fuel consumption will match the reality of moving something, say, as massive as a capital ship. They also say they are focused on ensuring that fuel burn behaves correctly, especially once the resource network is fully integrated, referring to the engineering system here as the resource network, at which point they will then adjust costs further. So essentially, what it is saying here is that as these systems come online, components will age and degrade and need maintaining or replacing. That will cost. Fuel costs will also make sense to the size of the ship and how you're flying it and what you're moving. If you're moving a lot of cargo, that adds to the mass, which will then require more fuel. But also, costs will fluctuate based on the overall economy at that time, wherever you are in the verse, very much based on that supply and demand. So if resources are not finding their way to the location where you are and want to purchase something, then the prices will go up versus places where it's abundant. So it's not like there will be a flat rate to operating costs per ship. There will be a lot of factors that contribute to how much a refuel or a repair will be, even down to how you are flying. if you are constantly boosting everywhere, or you have everything turned on inside your ship, all the lights on, all the systems functioning, then your ship will use more fuel, its components and thrusters and so forth will degrade faster, and this is where things like having an economy profile for your engineering system will come in handy, and flying it a bit more casually rather than boosting everywhere. Now, they also say on the subject of things like torpedoes, the largest variants are designed for endgame scenarios, such as taking down an Idris, and they are intended to be costly and rare, reflecting their destructive powers. And until that kind of content arrives, they will remain high to preserve that balance. And don't forget, we are talking about the Persistent Universe back-end economy here, not the player-driven economy, which will be in our hands. There will be two types of economy in Star Citizen. The one that is the overall simulation that is mostly handled by NPCs that players can have a bit of an influence on, but then there will also be this deep player economy that is based around crafting and resource gathering and so forth. And the idea being that for our org, for example, we will take care of our own versus buying from the local economy. So we will have members in our org gathering resources, refining those resources, moving them around, crafting items and delivering those items to where they need to be, more so than just relying on the local shops. So that will be another option to think about when it comes to operational costs of vehicles. And for those not in our org, you could absolutely swing by our shops or our outposts, refuel at a decent price versus what the local costs could be. It will be its own economy, and there will be other orgs and other players who are open for business. Next question is, why does the Polaris often open fire upon allied ships or players in the party? And they say that this is simply a known issue, a known bug, and they will fix it when they can. Now the next question is, can bunker missions be adjusted to stop automatically revealing all objective markers, allowing players to search manually? Now, this is actually a sort of temporary aid that will be removed once things like FPS scanners come in. This is one of the reasons why I'm very excited for the implementation of, well, not just FPS scanners and radars and the signature system, but the whole updated signature system for all areas, which include ships and FPS. And this will expose a ton more depth when it comes to every aspect of Star Citizen. And basically, your whatever helmet or ship you're using, the scanner and the radar will operate appropriately for that role. So if you have a salvage ship or a salvage armor on, the scanners will detect valuable materials or components worth taking. Miners will have the ability to find the ores and see the quality and quantity of the ore. And of course, if you're in combat, military helmets will show you potentially enemy positions. You could use a ping to highlight enemy positions, but potentially alert them to your presence. They will be contextual to the role that they are designed for. And with the introduction of the still work in progress signature and radar and scanner system, which has been in the works for a long time, it sounds like they are getting much closer to sort of finishing it off now. This will open up to a ton of other gameplay mechanics, like exploration, bounty hunting, being able to sell coordinates, data transfers and running, hacking and so much more. And also the need to own various outfits and suits and helmets will be so much more valuable. So it's all being worked on to tie together, and at that point, things like these god markers will be gone, and we will use systems like scanners and radars to provide that information for us. Next question is, what is the current status of ship modules and modular ship development? Now, they say that work on the Caterpillar and the Ironclad will introduce this new form of modularity through the command module, where basically part of the ship detaches. And that development, they say, will extend the underlying functionality needed to support other modular content, so laying the groundwork for modular systems across multiple ships in the future. So I kind of guess we have modularity now with the Retaliator and, of course, the newly released Apollos, with those two rooms being modular and swappable. But this command module tech, which is slightly different, as it is one ship becoming, I suppose, two, will help them to further expand on more modular options down the line. And one thing that I suppose I'd never considered is, as cool as it will be one day to finally get that command module for the Caterpillar and the Ironclad, this opens the door for many more ships and vehicles to use this type of tech. So what is going to be possible once that stuff is done? We could be seeing some pretty unique designs and expanding on various gameplay types. Now, next question is, what improvements are planned for the inventory UI to improve ergonomics and clarity? Now, as we have seen, a refactor is underway that will update the interface to include improved item filters that allow us to quickly sort and locate specific gear. There will be a stack all button, hallelujah for that one. There's a search filter and streamlined moving objects between containers to feel more intuitive. So basically you could have 3, maybe 4, maybe even more containers around you in a close proximity, and you'll be able to just move things in and out of each without having to go into one, close it, go into the next one, close it, and go into... It'll just make it so much quicker. Now, I think as we have seen with this new proposed inventory UI design, it is very important to provide all the information that we will need while keeping it legible and easy to understand. It is not going to be easy to do this. Even looking at this new UI image, my brain is overwhelmed with the amount of information there. But so long as it's clean, has filters, and can provide the information we need, it will be a much better option than what we have now. And last we heard, this is in the works, but it might take a bit of time to get finished. So I think it could be something we see mid to late next year rather than this year by any means, or even early next. Next question, are there plans for personalised hangars that extend to include separate rooms for things like trophies and living space? And yes, the intention is to introduce modular options that can unlock new functionalities within your hangar. For example, spaces that are outfitted for dedicated interchangeable submodules, like additional freight elevators, empty rooms for us to just decorate as we please, or even medical facilities. Now, it has always been the plan to allow us to create basically a home out of our hangars, with all manner of rooms and add-ons like a firing range, an armory, living spaces, garage spaces for maintaining your vehicles, and so much more. And one day we will be able to buy and sell or rent hangars and these add-ons as well. We will be able to buy and sell or rent hubs and homes and apartments, org headquarters, and so much more from the various locations around the verse. But the fact that we can decorate our hangars now is a great win, as they already feel so much more homely, especially now that we spawn directly inside them, which is definitely a big win for the time being. The only real issue is how it can sometimes brick your hangars and how they get reset with every patch, which doesn't bode well for this year, considering we're getting a patch almost every month. Now, I have no idea how long it'll be until we get actual player homes. They did do quite a bit of work on them while they were working on distribution centers, and they sort of shifted focus from building interiors to the DCs. Now the DCs have released, they shifted back to building interiors, which do include player apartments, like around New Babbage and so forth. So hopefully this is something we can see come along next year, where we can actually own our own hub, our own apartment or house, and log in and out there as we want to, but we will see. Now, next question was, are there any improvements coming to ship lighting? Now, for the cockpit lighting, they say this is an ongoing balance between being bright enough to read the instruments on your dashboard and not too bright that it affects your visibility while flying in the dark. For now, they have started to add player-controlled lighting options in a few ships that allow us to toggle between the default option and alternate lighting states, which I assume is mostly just off. But funnily enough, in my cutter, I would always turn off the cockpit light as it was too bright, especially flying around in the dark. But this, as they say, will always come down to balancing, and I suppose one day the introduction of night vision visors and things like that will be beneficial. But of course, we will have the option to turn off lights in our ships wherever we want. Maybe post-engineering or with engineering. Next question is regarding ship armor and what the current status and plan for implementing ship armor is. Now, ship armor, they say, will be introduced in stages. Firstly, we're going to get a temporary system that will launch when the engineering gameplay comes along, and this will provide protection to ship components and as the armor health reaches 0, the components will then become more vulnerable. So basically still using things like health pools, where once that health pool for the armor reaches 0, then it will no longer provide protection. And that is, I suppose, irrespective of where the shots are hitting. Later on, it will be replaced by Maelstrom, which is their physical damage simulation. And this will use the ship's hull materials as armor to protect both the ship and its components. And what this means is that, for now, the armor system will be essentially faked by this set of numbers, giving that impression that your ship has, I suppose, extra health, and then when that health pool depletes, your components will be vulnerable. But this Maelstrom physical system will accurately simulate the damage type, be that ballistics, energy, and whatever. Some of them obviously better at penetrating armor than others, but it will be based on the location that is getting hit, and whether there is a component behind that specific location, which if you manage to penetrate through and hit that component, then it will react accordingly. Whereas if you're just shooting through, say, the wing of a ship, it'll just go through and then it won't hit anything. Now, this should lend nicely into ships with better armor having actual benefits, but it will still be faked when engineering comes along. A little bit more detailed than what it is now, but really, Maelstrom is where it will come to life. Next question, are there improvements planned for the ASOP terminal, like filters, allowing us to sort by ship, pledge status, role, or size? And yes, there are many improvements planned for ASOP terminals, like the ability to just search for a ship directly, which would definitely be beneficial. And then the final question is, what steps are being taken to improve the in-game chat moderation, like filtering and customization options? And Cloud Imperium say that they are working to bring in-game chat moderation and customization closer to the general standards of other MMOs, which will include things like mute and report, and accessible options directly from the player's name in-game. Now, I suppose, as we saw at CitizenCon last year, this will all be part of the plan for updating the social refactor, so offering all the, firstly, expected MMO options, as we've come to expect with any MMO, and then anything else that Star Citizen requires. Now, right now, their focus is on the transport refactor. They did say that once they have finished with that, currently the transport refactor is at parity with the previous transit system, but they obviously want to do more. Once that is released, then they will move on to the social refactor, and I do suggest watching last year's CitizenCon panel, which is called A Social Universe, where they run through all of their plans for everything org, party, MMO style, chat systems. That will give you the answers if you are curious. But there you go. That is the latest comms dive. That is comms dive number 3. Not a great deal of stuff we don't already know about, but of course many new players join throughout the year. Some of them will not have a clue as to any of this stuff. So hopefully that has helped either remind people or inform people. But with that said, if you are buying anything from the IMPOUND, be that a ship that you can no longer get on the RSI website, a particular CCU that you're trying to work towards, maybe some armor, some paint, some FPS weapons, using my link will get you 5% off, plus any purchase made does directly support the channel, so it is very much appreciated, and a big thank you to everyone who has done so already. It is a huge help. If you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, if you would like to hang out with us over on my live streams, either here on YouTube or at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother, you are all more than welcome. It is a great place if you are new to the game to come and ask your questions, because if I don't know the answer, someone else will. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.